Thank you all of you for coming tonight. So many people went to great lengths to be here tonight. A number of people had to change their weekend plans. People came back early from Tahoe, the Russian River Valley. Lisa gave up a chance to spend some time with her nieces and nephews babysitting. A lot of people went out and hired babysitters just so they could be here. Some of you had ambitions for me that exceeded even my own. You came to this neighborhood on a Sunday evening with the intention of finding parking. Thank you all. I'd like to thank people who are not here, who are watching online. Things are going correctly. There are potentially 4 dozen people from China to Europe and places in between who are watching right now. And I thank you for those of you who are tuning in online. I know for a lot of you, you had to get up. That's the middle of the night in some places. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to give a special thanks to Billy, who it's his birthday today. He's here to give me a favor. Happy birthday, Billy. I'd also like to thank, there's a number of people who've done a lot of extra legwork to be here tonight, to make tonight happen. And I really want to thank you all, especially Kara, PJ, Sid, Jesse, Julia, Paul, Laura Carstensen, Sylvia, and Sean. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Sorry, I didn't name everybody that. Thank you, so I am very grateful that all of you are willing to join me here tonight, and it's gotten warm. We didn't expect that. A lot of people may sacrifice. PJ, in order to be here tonight, is not playing board games. If he starts to shake, you'll be surprised. I especially like to thank the people who have made all the extra efforts and for being here and joining us tonight without any explanation as to why. So now I can finally tell you. The reason why I wanted you all to come here tonight is that 838 days ago, or a little over 1.2 million minutes ago.
Happy years, Dad.
Laura and I met for the very first time. And if you look around you at this very coffee shop, at these same tables and chairs, you can easily imagine that Laura and I are meeting for the very first time at a place about a mile down the road where tonight's gathering would have been more expensive. Call me sentimental, it's true. But I don't think that my memory exaggerates the details of that evening. Laura was nicely dressed. She was a little shy. And one of the very first things she ever said to me, this is true, I still remember it now, it still moves me right now. She looked at me, it's one of the first things she ever said to me. And she said, "Can I get you a beer?" And in the subsequent 1.2 million minutes, I learned a lot about her. I learned that she knows more languages than I can identify colors. I learned that even when I was in a mood to splurge on a night out, that Laura didn't always want chips with her Subway sandwich. Not everybody likes chips. I learned that she had an elderly cat named Genevieve, who she loved very much. And later, when Genevieve passed away, Laura held her and cried. And I cried too. I liked that cat. But I cried mostly because I knew how heartbroken Laura was. And I knew that nobody can love a pet more than she loved her. And the cat loved her back just as much. But it hadn't always been that way. Before Genevieve was adopted, she had a rough life. And she was wary of people. For the first 4 years that Laura had Genevieve, the cat wouldn't even sit on her lap. Now, I think most of us would be pretty patient with a new cat to give him a few days or a few weeks to warm up to, but a few years. After 4 years, you might think this is just a cold-hearted cat. I've adopted the feline Dick Cheney. Maybe I should watch my back when she pretends to hunt. You might even be excused for considering the possibility of returning this cat to the shelter. That never occurred to her. She loved that cat so wholeheartedly that she changed the nature of an old cat. And you all know that's no small measure. That's not like you or me changing a light bulb. That's on the scale of Rush Limbaugh changing the temperature. But it was true. By the time I met Genevieve, it wasn't that long before she jumped up to say hello. And that one story is just one of many that speaks to the transformative power of Laura's kindness. And her kindness is just one of her many qualities that makes me laugh. So I had Genevieve in mind when I came up with a cheer. And those of you who are familiar, by the way, this cheer is the last thing I have to say. Those of you who are familiar with the sport of Ultimate Frisbee know that there's a tradition at the end of the game that each team will give a cheer for the opposing team, congratulating them on a game well done. And this cheer can be a song or a rhyme. So tonight I've got a cheer, and I'd like your help in giving it. So what I'd like is, first of all, Laura, if you just kind of stand up here. And when I give the signal, and the signal is that I raise my arm up in the air, I'd like everybody to shout out some sort of affirmative word or sound. I have in mind something akin to the way in a gospel church that the congregation will sometimes talk back during the sermon. So those of you who are watching online, I invite you to do this as well, especially if you're in a public place. So let's try one practice right now. Everybody ready? Yeah. All right, that's pretty good. But think a little bit less church and a little more New Year's Eve. Let's try one more. Ready? That's great. Ready for the cheer? All right, cheer on. To gauge the virtue of your date, make note of how they treat the waiter. Better yet, consult an expert. Give their cat the vote. When Genevieve, world-weary, timid, met her rescuer from shelter living, she declined the gentle invitations and abstained from curling up on lap or knee. Yet Laura typically did not demand. She watched and catered to her pet instead. With catnip, toys, and patience to forbear, the nights she slept with towels round her head, so Genevieve would chew up less her hair. The cat remained aloof as 4 years passed, each finding her yet more loved than the last. Through years of care, this creature figured out, at last, true trust, and climbing up on lap, she purred an end of feline nookie drought. Might Laura's patient talents to unwrap our better natures be applied to me? I'm not as cute as Genevieve, it's true. But not to brag, I vomit sparingly. With your help, Laura, might in time I too mature into a critter worth your fuss. Before you answer, kindly first compare the strange devotions people sometimes trust to fill their lives, like Amway, psychic fairs, the Moonies, NASCAR, or the KGB, or vain pursuit of greed or PhD. You see, worse ways to spend your years exist than with a well-intentioned scrawny dude. Now, loved ones, friends, please join me to insist. Should Laura tie the knot if that's her mood? Do you advise she sign her life away? drives and shaves in synchrony. Who, I'm proud to say, believes that cooking means the microwave? I promise you would never lack of anything you'd want of thrift store wares. Your future, mine too, turns on your next act. One word will wed a man who deeply cares. I love you more than sports. Loyalty. Please, Laura Loeffler, will you marry me? Yes.
Get hot in here, didn't it?
Oh, that's why that is. I'm going to cry from the forehead.